commencement speaker today is Mr. John Adam Canis. John Canis, a native of Long Islander, is well known and well respected for his nearly 40 years of exceptional banking leadership. He currently serves as chairman, president, and CEO of Bank United, the largest bank in Florida. John was CEO of North Fork Bank for 35 years and was thought to have been the youngest bank president in the country when he was elected in 1976. He's been a dedicated member of many professional, academic, and community organizations. He was past president of the New York State Bankers Association and is currently on the board of the Weill Cornell Medical College. In 2005, he was named Best Regional Bank CEO in America by Institutional Investor. In 2011, he was named Best Financial CEO in Florida by the South Florida Business Journal. He received the Woodrow Wilson Award for Corporate Citizenship in 2007, and that same year was a recipient of an honorary Doctorate of Humane Letters degree from Dowling College. He received an honorary Doctorate of Laws from Gordon College in 2012. John is a frequent contributor to the CNBC Squawk Box and Bloomberg News, and his comments frequently appear in the mainstream press. John is married to Elaine, vice chairman of the Stony Brook School's Board of Trustees. Together they co-founded the John and Elaine Canis Family Foundation, which is widely known for its philanthropy on Long Island. In 2011, the foundation pledged $4 million to the Stony Brook School, which was the largest single gift the school has ever received. $3 million is to be used as a lead gift for Canis Commons, which will house the new dining room and student center. $1 million of their gift has been designated for financial aid to Long Island students. Their son, John, who is with us today, is an alumnus of the Stony Brook School's class of 2009. He graduated from Gordon College last week with a major in business administration and a minor in not-for-profit studies. Please join me in welcoming, please, Mr. John Canis.
Thank you, Dick. It's a little daunting when you get asked to speak before a group like this, knowing there are probably a dozen English PhDs out there. So if I dangle a participle here and there, write it off to poetic license and assume I know what I said. Don't panic, all of you. By the way, you make me feel old. I look in the ranks and I see some of you who I've known since you were very little, and listening to my own CV makes me feel even older. But it is a great pleasure to be here today. So here you stand on the precipice of the rest of your life, watching me take out my glasses and wondering how long I intend to stand here. Between you and the rest of the celebration, by the way, it hasn't escaped me, but I'm the last guy before you get your degree, and I know what you're thinking. Probably a good time to remind you that these celebrations started in Oxford University in the 15th century, actually they were baccalaureates, where each one of the candidates was required to deliver their own speech, and the speech was expected to last between 1 and 4 hours, delivered in Latin. So if any of you want to get up here and try that today, let me know, because I'll be out to lunch. I understand that commencement is one of life's great ceremonial beginnings, and I can assure you that my comments today will be brief, but I hope, at least for some of you, somewhat meaningful. I should begin by offering congratulations to some of our constituents here today. Obviously, my heartiest go to you, the class of 2013, and to your families and to all of your friends who've shown up here with you today to share this glorious occasion. Also, however, Stony Brook has enjoyed the benefit over the past year of Dick Reason, who just introduced me, as the head of our school on an interim basis. Our faculty and our students and our board have been the beneficiary of Dick's advice and counsel during that time, and the work that he has done here has formed a solid foundation that will be built upon by our incoming head of school, Josh Crane. I guess you heard from him last night. In addition to my congratulations, Josh, they didn't let you up here this time, huh? Next year. Let me wish you the best on your new journey and assure you that myself and my family stand ready to help in any way that we can. I assume you've already noticed that we built you and the girls a much larger dining hall on the other side. Each time I come to this campus, I'm reminded of my first experience here with that guy back there 10 years ago and his mother. Stony Brook was one of several schools that Elaine and I were considering for our son Johnny, who was starting here in the 8th grade after leaving our own school, the Rayner Country Day School, and I see some of the other graduates of the Rayner School sitting in front of me today. Fortunately for him, and mainly at the insistence of his mother, who gave better advice than I did, Stony Brook was selected, and we joined the SBS family for the next 5 years. It's hard for me to describe my own personal gratification watching the progress of our son as he made his way through those 5 years here, witnessing his academic development and his social maturation. His development as a young Christian was also both enlightening and very gratifying. What I didn't realize at the time was that the full impact of the experience he gained at this place would only be realized in retrospect. I trust that your experience here will be the same and as you look back on it someday. I sat where you sat trying to get out of my high school in 1964. I must admit that my school wasn't quite up to the standards of the Stony Brook School. In fact, I remember when my English teacher said, "What goes at the end of a sentence?" One of my classmates stood up and waved his arm excitedly, and he said, "Hire a lawyer and ask for an appeal." It was a different place. In some respects, in 1964, when I sat there, the world was a much, much simpler place. The Census Bureau had just reported that there were almost 3 billion people on this planet. Today, 7 billion of us share the same space. The Surgeon General had just issued his report saying that there was a slight possibility that smoking could be hazardous to one's health. A relatively unknown rock group from Liverpool, England, landed in New York's JFK airport, and the Beatles began their first U.S. tour. You heard of the Beatles? They were difficult times, too. Our president was a slow-speaking, lumbering Texan named Lyndon Johnson, having gained that office as a result of the assassination of John Kennedy the year before, who was widely regarded as one of America's most popular presidents. Johnson would go on to resign at the end of his first term, having been beaten down by the domestic violence and repeated disturbances in America, and especially in its largest cities, as the war in Vietnam that most Americans felt should have never been fought raged on. Those were sad times. 57,000 Americans came home in body bags as the horrified population watched the carnage every night on the evening news. Martin Luther King Jr. was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. 4 years later, he too would be assassinated outside of a motel in Memphis, Tennessee by James Earl Ray. On a lighter note, Ford introduced on an experimental basis their first sports car, the Mustang. Movie tickets were $1.25. And gasoline, believe it or not, was 30 cents a gallon. Try asking for that today. You can't smell it for 30 cents a gallon. We're fortunate that the stresses and tribulations of those transformative years are far behind us. And while the challenges brought forth by those times and the circumstances have changed, other and in some cases even more serious and sinister challenges remain. Amorphous groups of people, factions of renegade societies who don't seem to even fit in the 21st century, provide a clear and present danger to our freedom as Americans. In some cases, hiding behind the cloak of religious differences, these groups have extracted a high price on our society. Unlike traditional wars, these new forms of conflict are likely to go on for some time and remain a serious problem in our society for years to come. Additionally, economic advancements in our society have failed to solve some of our most basic problems. Nearly 20 million Americans were out of work in the last couple of years, and almost a third of our families risk losing their homes as their debts outweigh the value of their homes and their other assets. Students owe over $1 trillion in student loan debt that they have borrowed to finance their education. And by the way, that is a larger amount of money than all other credit card debt in the United States of America. 35% of them have become delinquent on these loans, as the slack economy has stifled their ability to go out and get jobs. Political turmoil, both domestically and overseas, rages on as Americans are dragged farther and farther apart ideologically by extremism in both of our political parties. I know. Some of you are wondering, what has this got to do with me, especially on graduation day? I only mean to remind you that while the world offers endless opportunities for young men and women like you who have had the benefit of such a solid Christian education, my generation will eventually pass the baton to you, and these issues will become yours to cope with. As you step out from this place and begin the next chapter of your life and the next stage of your education, I hope that you will occasionally remind yourselves that the responsibility of creating a better world and caring for those less fortunate than you will sooner or later become yours. I know some of you are already tweeting and texting, and your minds are elsewhere, and you're thinking about celebrations of this weekend and the summer. Don't apologize. I did that too. I had to be woken up, actually, in the middle of mine. But the stark realities of life will eventually capture your attention, like it or not. I've had a wide variety of experiences in my life. Understatement. I grew up on one of the original duck farms on eastern Long Island. I moved on to push a broom in a local grocery store when I was 14 years old. And at one time I thought I had reached the apex of my career when I was 18. You could drink when you're 18 those days. In my new job as a club car bartender on the Long Island Railroad. It was a really neat job. I was once a waiter, I was a landscaper, and I eventually became a school teacher. To say that the span of my experiences in life have been wide is an understatement. The result of these experiences, I believe I've hit on a few, maybe 5 basic rules for leading a happy life. Rule number 1 is relax. Your passion will find you. You know, we are unreasonable in our high schools, in our prep schools, in our colleges by running up to you when you're 14 or 15 or 16 years old and say, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? How would you ever know? Because you haven't had a chance to do anything. I was convinced when I was a kid that I wanted to be a lawyer. I took the law boards. I was on my way to law school. I sidetracked for a few years and became a teacher. And as a result of a story that I won't bore you with today because it takes too long, I ended up in the banking business. So your passion will find you, and God will lead you there. Trust in God, rule number 2. and learn to be bold. When I was teaching school, I was making $16,000 a year, which those days was a lot of money, 1970, 72, 71. And I got offered a job in a bank as a management trainee. The president of the bank looked squarely at me and he said, "Young man," he said, "we've got a great opportunity for you." He said, "In fact, the whole board of directors and I had a meeting about you last week and we're ready to offer you a really sweet deal." And I said, "Yeah, how much?" He said, $7,000 a year. I took the job because I saw beyond what the conversation was leading to that day, and I saw a career path that didn't turn out so bad. Rule number 3, don't let others define you. Steve Jobs, who I think is one of the most brilliant and innovative executives of modern times, who, by the way, never went to college, said it best. He said, "Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. And don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice." Rule number 4, there's only one more. Get in the game and remember, you don't have to be perfect. In baseball, if you want to have one of the highest batting averages ever recorded, you have to strike out at least half the times you stand up at the bat. So many times, I watch talent get wasted by people who are timid and who sit back and who are afraid to step out and get in the game. And rule number 5 may be the most important, and that is learn to fail or fail to learn. Winston Churchill said it on the eve of what might have been the loss of a major world war, and he said, "Never, never, never give up." And while you will face challenges in your life, and you have many, many years ahead of you, I can tell you that in the darkest days of my life, when I thought failure had consumed me and there was no future for me, in retrospect, those moments of failure turned out to be the best learning experiences and formed the foundation for what I would later learn to turn into success. In closing, I'd like to offer you a prayer that's part of a message I heard last week at the Gordon College Baccalaureate ceremony. And I'll quote, "Today we pray for tomorrow. This graduation opens yet another door to another chapter in your life. As you, God, have led our graduates in the past, please lead these young men and women into the future. Give them clarity, wisdom, and strength, and a calling from you to understand their purpose in life. Grant them courage to respond and step out." That is a very famous quote from a woman who I get to live with. Elaine Canis delivered that last week at the baccalaureate service of Gordon College. And just to make sure I cover all bases, I should leave you with Joshua 1 verse 9 that tells us, "Be strong and of good courage. Do not be afraid, nor be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." Thank you, and good luck.